An in thing among educators who make heavy use of social media is the practice of forming and attempting to learn from a PLN, a personal learning network. This is the idea that individual educators attach themselves to a self-selected group of others and learn by sharing and discussing with this group. This might be the modern equivalent of conversations that have long occurred in the teacher's lounge, with the distinction that the online world offers a far greater number of options for those looking for a specific expertise or perspectives. For example, there may be no other physics teacher or French teacher in a given school. Depending on who happens to be included in a PLN and the ways members of the PLN share with each other, the potential for learning and support are certainly there. How to go about forming a PLN and which networking tools should be used to communicate have long been and continue to be open questions. I have long been a promoter of personal blogs as a way to reflect on topics, communicate personal positions, and encourage interactions through comments. I like blogs in contrast to shorter form tools such as Twitter, because the potential for longer posts allows topics to be considered in greater depth. In fairness, blogs are more suited to personal opinion and information and less suited to personal interaction. However, tools such as Twitter are not particularly good at providing information in the first place, so a combination would likely make the most sense. The mechanism I suggest for following blogs is called RSS, which I've heard described as a rich site summary or a real simple syndication. The way I would describe RSS is as a method for following multiple sites through a process that indicates when any given site has been updated with a short comment that explains just what has changed. This service is about efficiency. I follow maybe 50 blogs or so, and the time to connect to each one to see if anything new has been added would be quite prohibitive. An RSS reader allows me to go to one place online and identify just those sites that have changed. I have a sense that reading blogs and using an RSS reader has declined. I see this as quite unfortunate. I attribute this perceived decline to a couple of things. First, I think many educators rely on Twitter for recommendations for what they might read. This might be described as a discovery approach. There is nothing wrong, certainly, with learning through recommendations, but I happen to prefer a more structured approach. I think the second reason the use of RSS is being abandoned or not even tried in the first place is that the original approach to RSS required some time for learning and was sometimes difficult to implement. The challenge was locating the web address for the RSS feed from a site, which is different from the address for the site itself. There were different ways of finding this unique address, which depended on the site, and it sometimes took some experience and patience to find the RSS feed address that you needed. The RSS service I now recommend does not require that you know how to do this, and it will do it for you. And for this reason, I'm trying to convince people to return to the use of an RSS reader. So my hope is that a quick demonstration will be all you need to give Okay, so this is my demonstration of one RSS reader and one that I am presently recommending. It's called Feedly, Feedly. It's an app, in this case, as you can probably tell, that I'm running on my iPad. You can also run it on a desktop computer, on other kinds of devices. So what you see when I open up Feedly is kind of a good example of what an RSS reader provides. You'll see basically new information that I have yet to review. So these little entries you see on this page are indicators of new information added to multiple blogs or multiple sites, and associated with each you see a little snippet of information. Now this is pretty much what you get, and by clicking on one of these, selecting one of these, I would go to that site if the little snippet interested me, and I could then read the entire post, the new addition to that site. So kind of how this works, if you look in the upper left-hand corner here, I'm going to select this, and you can see this is kind of the existing set of resources that I follow. And actually the numbers you see here, 46 and over 1,000, are the number of unread, or actually not read, but unreviewed additions that the RSS reader has collected. You can't really see the individual sites here unless I kind of open this up, and there you see these are all the sites that I follow. Now, I'm not going to go really through the organization and the categorization and some other things that I can do with Feedly. Explaining all the features of Feedly would take longer than I really intended. But I want to show you the basic feature that I believe is important, and that is the capacity to add content easily. So as I explained in my little introduction, one of the problems I think with RSS feed readers historically has been that a user needed to know the address, the web address, not necessarily for the site, but for the feed itself, which is different from the address for the site. And finding that for many individuals could be quite challenging, partly because the process is going to differ depending on the server, the blog type, all kinds of things. And Feedly makes that easy, and you don't have to do a bunch of complicated things, and you don't have to fool around exploring, depending upon the kind of server software or blog software that the author happens to be using. There's a much easier process that it allows you to do, and that basically is just to put in the address for a particular site. So I'm going to show you how that works, I hope. Basically, I'm going to use here where it says add content, and this makes some recommendations. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm going to do a search for a particular website. Happens to be mine, so I know I haven't added it yet. To make sure I do spell it right. Of course, what I should have done probably is cut and paste it. But this should work. learningaloud.com/participate. Okay, I search, and you see it's located my blog, and it shows multiple RSS feeds. The reason this is the case is there's an RSS feed for the blog entries themselves. There's an RSS feed for comments, and they're unique. So I just really want the first one here, which is for the blog itself. And basically now, because I'm just not going to add it in general, I'm going to add it to one of my existing categories. Whoops. I can select the category. This is kind of an ed tech blog. So I select that. And basically, that's all there is to it. So the process with Feedly then, pretty simple. You open up the app. You would need to know the addresses of specific blogs you want to follow, and then you would go through and add these addresses to Feedly. I'm assuming you want to certainly follow the original posts, but you might want to follow the comments as well. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So and I think you should, give Feedly a try. The basic version shouldn't cost you anything, and explore, the use of a reader to follow updates offered by multiple content providers, bloggers, and I think this is a good way to be efficient in responding to or processing the information provided by others who make up your personal learning.